So I was pretty happy the other day when I got this in the mail. I ordered it on eBay. This is actually an E3 1270 V3 Xeon processor. It's four core, 8 thread, and I was going to go ahead and I did put it in the Dell Optiplex that we've been doing a little bit of testing on here and there, back and forth, and all that stuff. That currently has an i5 4670, and you might think, well, if you already got it and you already put it in, then why is it in the package again? Yeah, we're going to talk about that. So first things first, I did put it in to the Dell Optiplex, and it fit, and it worked great, and I was very, very happy with the results. It took a little bit because I had to go back into the BIOS, and I had to tell the BIOS to look for a hyper-threaded CPU instead of the 4-core 4-thread that was already in there. But once it found that, not a problem at all. And it was pretty snappy, and it worked out pretty well. I did run into a couple of things that I noticed almost immediately, though. She ran a little bit warmer than the regular 4-core 4-thread. And in that Optiplex, because it is a small form factor, that does create a small bit of a problem. The other thing that creates the problem, and we're going to see this as we run through some of these benchmarks, is it's not the CPU that's the problem. And we're going to do something else with this CPU. But side by side, looking at the 4-core 4-thread, the 4670, and this Xeon, something else came into play. Yeah, that video card. Yeah, this thing, bane of a lot of people's existence, but the fact of the matter is, it is about the most powerful card, or about the best card you can get, that fits in a single slot, low profile, like that Dell Optiplex is. You can get some other cards, like an RX 560 comes in a slimline like that. You can get I believe you can still get a GTX 1050. You can put one of those in there, or maybe you might be able to find like a 1650. But both of those are going to run you more expensive. The 6400 by far right now is the easiest to get a hold of. It does come in a low profile, and it's the easiest one to put into a setup like that. So that's the one we're testing with, and that's the one we realize that no matter what we do with the CPU, and this does run a little bit warmer. The GPU is the holdback. So let's go ahead and run through these benchmarks real quick, because I'm just going to run through. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time analyzing or anything like that. They're about what you expect. And we'll start with Shadow of the Tomb Raider, where they're almost even. I mean, they're within margin of error almost, a frame or two, no big deal. And it's not quite what I expected, but looking back on it now, realizing the GPU is the problem, it is kind of what I expected. Borderlands 3, you get just a little bit of a separation with a better CPU, 4-core 8-thread, but it's not enough to say, oh wow, this is a great idea. Far Cry 6 floats back the other direction. I have no idea why, except for the fact that the VRAM on the video card, and that 4-core 4-thread just runs a little bit cooler, and I think it's a little bit happier in there. And that Xeon just doesn't quite handle things in Far Cry 6 as well. Don't get me wrong, it still looked pretty good. It didn't give me any issues trying to run. By far, the thing that we are continuing to run into, though, is that 6400. It's the graphics card that's the problem. Forza Horizon 5, kind of same deal. This was lower with the new CPU, I say new CPU, but the better CPU, the 4-core 8-thread, than it was with the regular 4-core 4-thread. After seeing a couple of these results and seeing that the video card was the problem, I started to understand. Forza Horizon 5 was one of those weird ones, though, because when I tried to test with going from the highest resolution to lowest resolution, it gave me some awful numbers, like 8 frames per second, 10 frames per second. I actually had to start all the tests all over again and go from 1080 low to medium and then go up. Because if I went the other way, if I went from extreme to ultra to whatever, it just gave me some horrendous, and it just never recovered. And I'm sure that the VRAM on the graphics card is part of that. But if I ran them the other way, then I had some pretty decent numbers. And it does look good for either CPU. But it's not enough to make me want to keep that Xeon in there. World War Z, pretty much the same thing. These two are a dead heat. There's almost no difference in the two of them. And Horizon Zero Dawn, we have just a little bit of an edge for the Xeon processor. Not enough to make me, again, want to leave it in there as the permanent go-to for that computer. Especially that when that 4-core 4-thread is doing just fine in there. Assassin's Creed Valhalla sees it go back the other way a little bit. The 4-core 4-thread is happier than the Xeon processor was. Again, this is a newer title, sort of like Far Cry 6, where maybe some things aren't optimized quite right, and that older Xeon has some problems that the 4670 doesn't have. I don't know. I didn't play around with it enough to find out, but it was enough of a difference to really make me question whether... I don't want to say question. It made me second think a couple of things. Then we went ahead to some of the harder games to run, or one of the harder games to run. Cyberpunk always does it to everybody, and this came out almost dead even. I ran these numbers several times with both processors and got almost the same exact thing with both of them. So you're not losing anything or gaining anything by either one of these. And again, it just goes to show that the weak link in this whole thing is that RX 6400. And it's not going to get any better because it runs off of that PCIe 3 bus, which is horrible for that card. And it is what it is. And then finally, when we're looking at our esports title, Counter-Strike Global Offensive, CSGO runs on just about everything. It runs fairly well on both of these as well. We're almost getting 200 frames per second on either one of them. Either one of them is going to do a fine job. So swapping this back and putting the 4-core 4-thread 4670 back in the Dell Optiplex. Why? When I got arguably as good or better numbers sometimes with the Xeon processor. A couple reasons. The heat. This runs a little bit warmer, so overall the temperature in the box is going to be a little bit warmer, which is going to affect not only this, but it will also affect the video card, which I think is sometimes why we saw some of the titles not doing quite as well, because the more heat you introduce, the worse it's going to be. And there comes a point of diminishing returns, where if you've got a 4-core 4-thread that does pretty much as well or almost as well as a 4-core 8-thread, why keep the better CPU in there? Why not use this, get a different motherboard, set it up with a better video card, and see what it can actually do in a system? And I'm sure that that would be a better comparison. Well, not necessarily apples to apples, but I mean, I would be able to get some better numbers and a little bit better comparison to find out how much better this processor is than that one by doing a similar test with, say, an RX 580 or an RX 570 or something from around the same time frame, but a better GPU than that RX 6400 is. So that will probably be the next thing. I will have to get me another motherboard, or maybe find another Dell Optiplex. It's a full-size Optiplex instead of that small form factor, because that video card just not going to do it for these. The other thing that was most noticeable is the 4-core 4-thread that's in there is a better match. It uses more CPU with the games than this does. This will run anywhere from 20 to 25, 40% CPU load. And there's only a couple games like Cyberpunk and Valhalla ran this more than 50%. Whereas constantly with that 4670, that's running 45 to 55% usage, and on some of the tougher games it's running about 65, 60, probably 70% usage. So it is getting more balanced usage with the graphics card than this would, and really it really exploits that bottleneck of that AMD graphics card that's in there. Unfortunately, there's not a better graphics card to be able to try to use in there. Not for the price, not for, I mean, there's probably a lot of, I could jerry rig something or use a PCIe Express cable or something like that to try to do some testing outside of that. But by the time I do that, I might as well just get a different motherboard and test it that way and get a little bit better idea of just what that Xeon processor can do. Who knows? Maybe, just maybe, that pink case back there. Well, no, that pink case is a hot box. I don't know if I want to do that. See, I'm thinking out loud. This might not even made it to edit. So basically, we're just going to recommend keeping this thing the way it is. With a 4-core 4-thread 4670 that came in it. I put an SSD in it. We maxed out the memory at 16 gig instead of 8 gig. We went ahead and put the other graphics card in it. I spent a little bit more than that because I bought the parts when they were more expensive. Now you can build the same thing for about $330. So really, I don't see putting more money into it. Now, this didn't cost me a lot. It only cost me $28, and the shipping was free, so that was good. But it's 30 bucks I didn't need to spend, and then $30 that I can use in something else. So I'll find another motherboard, stick it in there, and we'll see what happens. So anyway, I don't know if you get anything out of the video or not. Sometimes bigger is not always better, or newer or more is not always better. I don't know. Maybe more sometimes is less. Who knows? Sometimes, remember these words, diminishing returns. Sometimes you get to a point where it just doesn't make any difference. The more you pour onto it, or the more you put into it, you get the same results, so it doesn't make any difference. And at that point, you know, it's not worth it. Stick with what you had in the first place. Didn't know it until I tried it, right? But I do something stupid, so you don't have to do something stupid. In any case, I don't think it was stupid overall. I just think, you know, who knows? Anyway, I'm blithering now, so it's time to end the video. If you like what you saw, or you liked any part of the video, go ahead and throw a thumbs up on it. Don't forget to visit me on the other socials and all that good stuff. And the one thing I'm going to ask you to do, most important of anything that you can do in your entire day, is just be nice to somebody. Smile, wave, you know, say hello, whatever the deal is. You have no idea how you can change somebody's day just by being kind. And it's absolutely free. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to spend any money. Kind of makes everybody feel a little bit better, you know. Anyway, until next time, I am not sure what is next. I have had a very interesting week, as some people can attest to. I'm not going to burden you guys with all that thought, but I will figure it out, and I will get another video pumped out here pretty quick. I just got to kind of square a couple things away and get things back on track and get things rolling again. That's all. But in any case, hey, that is what I got. So until I do something that I've got no business doing, I'll see you later.